Hello and welcome to VDODNA, where the English is bad and the tutorials are good. I'm Liran Tabib, and in this exciting tutorial we're gonna see how to make this Astro field. This two-part tutorial is gonna go through Softimage to make the little rocks. We're gonna make one procedural rock which will render out as 100 of stones. And then we're gonna get into After Effects in the second part and combine it all together to this Astro field. So first of all, we're gonna open up Softimage, and by control clicking I can maximize the viewport so I can see better. First of all, we want to make a cube, so we go to Primitive, Polygon Mesh, and take a cube, and we're gonna change the viewing mode to high quality, and by this I'm gonna see the textures on the cube. So I can press G to remove the grid, so it's gonna be easier for me to work, and I'm gonna go into the camera properties and let's change the picture ratio to 1, and because that's how we're gonna render it out. Now we want to subdivide this cube by going to the model panel and choosing from Polymesh and Subdivision, and we're gonna divide it maybe into 2 levels, and we're gonna delete the cube we started with. This cube, I'm gonna press enter, I'm gonna call it rock. Now I want to give it a little displacement. So before I do that, I want to go and do a few things. First of all, I want to see the render tree, and so it's gonna be easy for me to edit the displacement. And second of all, I want to render the result. So I'm gonna go to the selection, and we're gonna go to the geometry approximation, and we're gonna tell the polygon mesh to render with a lot of detail, maybe level 6. Okay, so now even though we have a really few cubes or really few polygons on this sphere or on this cube, we're gonna render it out perfect. Excellent. And now I want to give this sphere, this cube, this rock, I want to give it a Lambert material. And now we're gonna edit the Lambert material. I'm gonna check the render tree, I'm gonna press A to see all of it and refresh it so I can see the Lambert material. Now I want to create a displacement map, and I want to take the cell pattern, and I'm gonna connect it to this displacement. So I'm not gonna see anything in the viewport, but if I render it out by pressing Q and dragging the mouse, I'm gonna see the displacement I'm gonna make. So this is not a good displacement at all. So what I want to do is to edit it a little bit. So first of all, I'm gonna double click the cell node, and I'm gonna go to advanced. So I want to get even a bigger pattern. So I'm gonna go 1 by 1 by 1. Okay, this looks pretty awful, so I'm gonna try 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Okay, this looks pretty good, but it's inverted. So I'm gonna invert it by going to another node called Scalar Change Range. And I'm gonna put it right over here, okay, between the color to scalar and the scalar change range. And by double clicking it, I can go and change the values from 0 to 1. I'm gonna change them to -2 into 2. So now I can see it's inverted, so I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna invert it, so from 2 to -2. What happened in this node, so it's gonna take the old values and it's gonna change the range, so 0 will become 2 and 1 will become -2. So it's a very comfortable node to work with when you want to change a range. Okay, looks nice. So this cell pattern I'm gonna call big detail. And that's because I'm gonna add the small detail. I'm gonna rearrange everything over here by selecting and pressing Ctrl R. And after that, I'm gonna select these nodes and I'm gonna copy it by Ctrl C and paste it by Ctrl V. And I'm gonna put them right over here. Maybe let's rearrange it a little. Okay. That looks pretty nice, but I can't understand nothing. So I'm gonna come closer. I'm gonna navigate by pressing S and middle click to zoom in. I can also select a node and by pressing F, or a few nodes and pressing F, so I can zoom into them. So let's take the big detail, the second big detail, and call it small detail. And now I want to make the details smaller. I'm gonna press A to see everything, and I'm gonna connect it to the displacement. And I really can't see what's going on over here, but it's because the screen is smaller for recording purposes, so you have to excuse me. This is hard already. I'm gonna double click the small detail node. It was a cell pattern node. I'm gonna go to advanced, and now I'm gonna change the values to maybe 2 by 2 by 2. That looks awful, and that's because the details are too small. So I'm gonna scale them up, pressing 1 by 1 by 1, and now it looks better, but it's too jagged. So if you remember, we can change the range. Okay, so we're gonna double click it, and we're gonna change it maybe into 0.5 by minus 0.5, and this looks better. Maybe 0.3 by minus 0.3. Actually looks pretty good. And maybe 1.25 and minus 0.25. Perfect. Now I want to take both nodes, the big detail node and the small detail node, and combine them together to one super detailed map. So for this, I'm gonna call scalar basic node. The scalar basic node can connect two inputs and output them into one input. So this will be perfect for the job. I'm gonna connect this node to the input, and this one to the input number 2, and this output into the displacement. Et voila. And now we can see the detail is pretty strong, so we can go inside and change a little numbers until we get the perfect score, the perfect touch. Okay, now for the third level of detail, and that's gonna be based on a fractal scalar, maybe just a fractal. I'm gonna take the fractal node, and the fractal node creates a pretty nice fractal noise. And let's see, maybe let's take a grid. This is the fractal noise, and first of all I want to change the decay of it, so I'm gonna double click it, and I'm gonna go to the fractal tab, and now I'm gonna take the decay level and up it up a bit. Okay, and maybe change the complexity. Okay, so now by changing both of them, I'm gonna get a nice texture. And we want to take this texture and connect it to the stone. So I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to take this node, okay, the fractal node, and I'm going to connect it to the displacement port. And now I can see all the little detail. And again, I'm going to take a change range node, so I can change the range of the node, and put it right over here, so it's gonna be connected. And now I want to take this node and maybe minus 0.2 into 0.2, maybe even a smaller value. Now if I come closer, I can see the detail. Maybe I can go into the Fractal Node and change the colors from maybe white to a gray, a bright gray, and from the black to a dark gray. So I'm gonna see those details. Okay, and these details looks pretty fine. Okay, and now we need to combine all of those details together. So maybe we're gonna scale up all this window. Okay, and now I'm gonna press Ctrl R to rearrange, and now I can take the fractal and all the other details that is connected to this scalar basic and take another scalar basic. And this one is gonna connect all of those together. And I'm gonna take this scalar basic and connect them to the displacement. So now I have the fractal, the big detail, small detail, all of them connected into the displacement. Let's see what we have. It looks pretty nice. Maybe we can change the detail of the fractal. Maybe we're gonna make it larger. And even more deeper. That looks good. That looks pretty good. And no, I think this is enough. So now I want to take this stone and give it a color texture. And we can make the color texture by taking textures and connect them into the Lambert. Let's take another fractal texture, and we're gonna connect this into the illumination and into the ambient port. Okay, I'm gonna kind of call this fractal ambient. And just to revise everything so all the texture is gonna look pretty nice, we're gonna go and take a new spatial texture projection. So I could see what I'm doing. Maybe I'm gonna pull out the displacement node. I'm gonna free the displacement port, so now I can see the texture even better. So I'm gonna double click on the fractal ambient that I just created, and let's edit it a bit. First of all, we want the chunks to be a lot bigger, so maybe 5 by 5 by 5. Looks pretty nice. And I'm gonna go to the fractal tab and maybe pull up the complexity and pull up the decay. Looks pretty nice. Maybe even bigger. Let's take 2 by 2 by 2. Okay, this is what I was looking for. So this is perfect for the dark side. Now I want to create the texture for the illuminated parts. So I'm gonna take another fractal, and this one I'm gonna connect into the illumination, but into the diffuse port. And by double clicking the fractal, I can change the name so I know what's gonna be. And I'm gonna call it fractal diffuse. And let's first of all take it down, make it really small. Maybe no, we're gonna leave it 20 by 20 by 20. And we're gonna go to the fractal and we're gonna increase the complexity and the decay level. And now I want a little bump map. Let's look at the bump. I'm gonna go to the texture tab and I'm gonna enable the bump mapping. And now I can see the bumps are on the textures. So the factor is too high. Maybe we're gonna take it to 1. So we have just a little bit of detail. Okay, just a touch, and maybe we're gonna make it even smaller. I'm gonna go to the advanced tab, make it 40 by 40 by 40, and now we're gonna change the colors of it into maybe from bright gray into dark, I think maybe a brown color of some kind. Okay, that looks pretty nice. Let's connect all of the nodes together so we can see what we have from the colors and from the displacement. Let's connect the Scatter Basic that connects all the displacement texture into the displacement port, and voila, we've got a rock. And now we want to render it out. So first of all, I want to make the stone change every keyframe. Every frame, not a keyframe. What keyframe? So we're gonna go into the big detail node. Okay, remember the big detail? And we're gonna keyframe the texture, the seed of the texture. So I'm gonna take a keyframe, make a keyframe here on the first frame, and now I'm gonna go until the last frame, 100 frame, and we're gonna change the seed and make another keyframe. So now we'll have a different stone in every frame, every little frame. That's amazing. That's incredible. My life is divided by 2 right now. So the lighting is not good enough, so I'm gonna explore some lights. We're gonna press H to unhide the light, and let's edit it a bit. I'm gonna take it to the side and maybe take the intensity up until 2, and maybe change the color to a warmer color. Maybe this is warm enough for me. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so now we have a brighter light, but I wanted to have shadows. So let's go into the shadows, enable them, and decrease the umbra, which is the shadow darkness, or okay. And now we're gonna create another light. I'm gonna go to primitive light, and we're gonna take the point light. I'm gonna close this window, and by pressing V I can take this light whenever I want. So I'm gonna take the light, I'm gonna change the color of it to maybe a blue kind of light, and we make it really strong, maybe 3 on the intensity. And the same goes for the shadows of this light. Let's see what we have here. That looks pretty nice. So this one I can render. Maybe change the light a bit. No, looks pretty good. So to render, I'm gonna take the camera, I'm gonna go to the properties, and I'm gonna make sure I'm in picture ratio 1. And now I'm gonna go to the render tab, and I'm gonna go to the render, and we're gonna change the scene options to a width of 800 pixels by 800 pixels, and we're gonna now go to the pass options, and we can give it a name, maybe rock seed. And now I can go to the render option, and I can change all of the things, but this render is not supposed to be a quality render, because I'm gonna use only 1 frame at a time. So if there is a little bit jittering or a little bit of noise, we're not gonna see it, because we're only gonna use those rocks as still images. So every kind of render will be just fine. So now I'm gonna go to the render, and I'm gonna render the current pass, and that concludes the first part of this tutorial. And now we have a rock, and thank you for watching. You can support the site by downloading the project files. It's gonna cost you less than $1 and gonna save you a whole lot of headaches. So thanks for watching. I'm Ilan Tabib from VDODNA, where the English is bad and the tutorials are good. See you next time.